Here comes the DC shutdown, right? What you need to know. So they're going to tell you what you need to know about something that's never going to take place. Don't you love that? Oh, here comes our friendly dogs barking, right? Right on cue. Pure peace and quiet for the last 3 hours while I've been searching for news. So they're going to tell you that the government's going to shut down the federal government. Well, it's not going to shut down, but they're going to put it out there to scare people like it is. And it's mostly engineer consent. I guess they expect people to just protest and arrive in D.C. Saying, please, no, don't shut the federal government down. Don't do it. Well, 10 ways a government shutdown would affect your daily life. Well, I can come up with 10 ways besides, being freer, being more economically prosperous, a society being healthier, the environment being healthier. You can go on and on with 10 positive things about if the government shut down. But this is the engineer consent, and that's the way it works. This is so when they do pass the bill, people could say, well, oh, okay, they were working hard, right? DC's working overtime for you, right? They're working overtime on blame with shutdown less than 24 hours away. So they're working for you. Oh, how are they working? Congress members are seen drinking during late night debate. Oh, so it's actually a debate going on. Again, no, there is no debate taking place. But it says here, as the brakes are put on Obamacare, leading government to brink of shutdown. So it's all bullshit, right? So you just have to be able to see through it, which is Obamacare. Well, what is it? Well, the left is championing this as socialism, and the right is saying, "Well, this is socialism." Well, it's not actually. It's about consolidating private insurance companies and forcing people to have private insurance. So, if you go with what we have now, you have private insurance monopolies. That's not really socialism. Then what you're going to have is a further consolidation with Obamacare. So do you want private healthcare monopolies or do you want bigger private insurance monopolies? So you can take that pick, right? You can pick the left or the right, the Democrats or the Republicans, or, all of the choices that have been selected for you. So it makes sense that most Americans, they don't know what the hell is going on, and if they do, they don't know how to make a decision. Americans trust in their own political decision making at 4-year low. So back in the day, there used to be Americans that knew that you don't trust politicians at all, right? In fact, you don't really even want them. You don't even want to have anything to do with the government, especially the federal government. So you would be federal government shutdown. Hell yeah, dude. Back then they'd be, all right, right? But they were also very very intelligent, I think, personally, that they knew more about history. They knew more about what this country was about, or at least what they said it was about, and they were able to make more informed decisions. So it says here, Americans trust themselves less than any time since the 1970s to make judgments about political issues facing the country, but still have more confidence in the American people's decisions making than in politicians or federal government. So, but you have to remember, we don't really have what they call a democracy or even a republic. People don't really have a say. Even if you want to have a republic, it's you don't have a say. Much like the workforce, the labor force, you don't really have a say. You're renting out yourself to somebody who doesn't do a damn thing. Maybe he takes on the liability of taking on a debt in order to invest in a company to start it up. But they really, they just declare bankruptcy. They move on to another type of sham to scam people out of their hard work. So, but it's similar to that. There is no decision making in the labor force. And obviously, if you try to organize and have some kind of say in how you're going to be used, that's called. They say, oh, that's communism. So, right, unions. And throwing words about debates in Congress. Well, there's not any real debates. It's just about the only debate is how much they're going to scam you and how they're going to do it. So, and they call that representing you, and they call that democracy. But you don't have a say. So for whatever it's worth, these truck drivers are going to see what they can do. They're going to go to D.C. with Impeachment Movement. So the goal is to wake up the sleeping giant, the people of America. In less than 2 weeks, thousands of truckers will descend on Washington, D.C., driving their big rigs and calling for the restoration of a constitutional republic. Again, whatever that's worth, right? The Constitution, you can go into all kinds of theories, but I don't think it was the greatest thing that everybody thinks it was. It was to protect monopolies and protect big businessmen and oligarchs and elites, basically the people that engineered consent to start a revolution, to start what we have now, which is why you had secession from the Union by the South, among many other reasons. But basically, they had that constitutional, that crap basically forced onto them. So when they tried to secede from the Union, which was supposedly their constitutional right, the North declared a war on them, and all of a sudden it was, Americans killing Americans. So that's kind of what you got out of it. So I don't know if you really want to go back to that, but it says here, now their plan has taken a new twist. Their friends and families will simultaneously join other Americans rallying on overpasses across the nation for Obama's impeachment. But for whatever it's worth, this would be actually like an exercise of democracy if these guys could actually get their crap together and do some kind of protesting. Now, there's a good documentary I mentioned a while back called Big Rig. You should check it out on YouTube. It's a really good documentary. And they basically say, these truck drivers, that most of them don't own their own trucks anymore. They basically work for these companies. And of course, I have an uncle that's doing it now. He worked as a bond trader at the Board of Trade in Chicago. Now he's driving a truck. But he, among other people, say that, oh, it's so great, work for Waste Management and work for these companies because they pay to get your CDL and then you can leave and they pay for all the expenses. Basically, it's about liability. So it's hard to own your own truck, but if you can, it's a sign of independence, right? So there's not that many people that are independent anymore because they don't own their own trucks. Also, talking about how we're going to shut down, see what happens, That's what, like I said, that's what truck drivers always talk about, how they're going to organize and they're going to shut down and not operate, unionize. But then they'll keep saying that, but they can't do that because they have families to feed and bills to pay, so they can never get together to do that. So this is pretty big for them. This is my website, ggnonline.net, Global Government News. Today is Monday, September 30th, 2013. I'm Darko. I'm going to have a bunch of news today. I don't know how my format's going to be the rest of this week. Maybe I'll just do commentary. I'd like to do call-ins, like maybe on Skype and that, maybe like on a Friday or Saturday, where I can basically just take kind of like calls on Skype, So we have U.S. obtaining military vehicles to aid hunt for criminals. Now, this, of course, is going when they say, oh, the government's broke and we're going to shut down and stuff like that. And that's how many reasons why that it's bullshit, right? Don't mess with Texas, it says here. It's assumed a whole new meaning in Dallas. It said here they acquired its own bona fide military vehicle, the Max Pro tactical vehicle, courtesy of a Department of Defense surplus program with bulletproof doors and tires. Said they will now use it to serve warrants on wanted men. The vehicle costs about $600,000, but the county obtained it solely for the cost of transporting it from Fort Hood. And here's a picture of this thing. Dallas County now has its own very own bulletproof, mine-protected military SUV. So it's kind of like the Bearcat, and they're not the only city to have these things. It's kind of a theme that you're seeing, right? The cops at Ohio State have now an armored fighting vehicle now. So is it just surplus, or is this actually martial law? Because you see a lot of these patriot groups and alternative media and conservatives and libertarians saying martial law is coming. Well, what if it's already here? What if these people are smarter than your average bear, right? And they actually militarized the police, so they don't need martial law. The police are the military. They don't need gun control because after the Zimmerman trial, and watching what happens to your life as it goes down the tubes, divorce, traffic tickets, and all that. That's what happens if you try to defend yourselves. Doesn't really matter whether Zimmerman was innocent or guilty or not. The story is that every gun owner will basically impose self-gun control. Gun control against themselves. The police themselves. You don't need gun control laws. So I find it funny when I see these stories. Gun control law sparks record weapons sales. So it makes people like this guy really, really happy, right? And the military, or actually the weapons complex, makes them happy too. So fingerprints required to buy gun. Magazines limited to 10 bullets. So, and it's like you could just load magazine after magazine, and that's what people will say. And oh, they're coming, they'll make a big deal out of all these laws that are passed to do these things, but are they going to ban them? I don't think so. The thing you have to look for is the mentally ill. That's what they did with Sandy Hook too. They're basically going to take people or who they deem mentally ill, and they could euthanize them. I think that's where they're going with it, and I think that's what this whole thing is really about, including the Navy Yard shooting. New gun sales are up under Obama 94% compared to gun sales under Bush. 94% gun sales increase under Obama. So he's coming for your guns, though, right? I mean, I still hear people saying that. I don't know, but I know who they're listening to and where they're getting their information from. Mass shootings prompt millions of dollars for additional police officers at schools nationwide. Again, is this about gun control? At the shootings at schools and stuff? No. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with making a complex out of the school system, out of the education system, out of the schools. Make it into a school complex, a government complex, where the youth will be raised in this small city. It would be like a village where they'll have everything that they need right there. And parents will get visitation rights, and if they try to get their kids out of there by force, they will be met by armed guards and police officers. See what you did, conservatives and libertarians? Good job. But hey, this is what the NRA was pushing for, right? This is what the NRA represents, right? Gun owners. No, they represent the establishment. They represent the weapons manufacturers. Then we have this, a school apologizing for video with political slant. So it says here, the Hudson School District issued an apology for using a I Pledge YouTube video featuring Ashton Kutcher, Demi Moore, Kabbalist basically. It says here, at the middle school's Peace One Day event on Wednesday, September 25th. They said the message about serving Obama may have been offensive to some students, families, and the staff. That Red Hot Chili Peppers lead singer Anthony Kiedis said, I pledge to be of service to Barack Obama. Demi Moore finishing by saying, I pledge to be a servant to our president. Wow. So it says here, the curator said that the stated purpose of the day is to hold an annual day of global unity, because you're a global citizen, a day of intercultural cooperation. How does that work? I think it's death of culture, no culture, on a scale that humanity has never known. So they're saying that the economy is improving. I don't really think it's that. I just think that, but Americans are willing again to slave away for things that they don't really need in order to make a small minority of people very, very rich off usury and that, and but then they'll complain about the economy and stuff, and the 1% and the big bag banks that they go to for mortgage loans and that. It says here they're going on and they're moving, right? More than 7 million Americans moved states last year. So I'm going to leave off here because I have a kind of an interesting point to make, and I won't be able to squeeze it in a minute. So please join me in part 2, and we'll continue with this article, move on, and some interesting articles as far as eugenics, about how the great, the United States is, oh, why don't you just move, right? Well, it's you could say, well, it's not that easy, right? It's a little more complicated than that. You have to have a lot of money. Sometimes you want to have some kind of roots there. You want to know somebody where you're going to move, and then you have the idea of it's the greatest place on the earth, America, or yeah, it's bad, but it's better than most of the other places, right? But not really. I'm starting to think differently now that actually there are better places, and I think as far as freedom goes, you could look to places like China and Iran and Russia that actually probably have more freedom than we do. Maybe in different ways we have more freedom, like the social liberalism, being able to spend, having the financial freedom to spend on crap, things that we don't need. But anyways, we'll return in part 2. Thank you.